My name is David Welch. I'm at Brothers Tech Center today to show you the one-piece window kit that we've made for the square body trucks. That's going to be anything from 73 to 87 Chevy or GMC. Your kit is going to come with a piece of glass. You've got your setting tape, you've got your rubber at the top, you got your rubber around the channels, some miscellaneous hardware here. You've got this new channel that we've made that goes in the front, a little brace for the back, another little funny thing I'll show you about later. You might want to get some tape and some miscellaneous things. You got some spatulas. You're going to need just minor tools to get it in there. Now it is going to take you about 2 or 3 hours aside, but you don't need anything special. You can do it. I know you can. Now why do I want to replace my vent window? A lot of times these just get old and tired and they make all that whistling noise. So instead of rebuilding this and putting it back in, I'm just going to get rid of it all together and I'll have a nice clean look and I'll be getting rid of some noise. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is take our door panel off. Generally you'll have some screws at the bottom down here, and you'll have some screws holding on this handle right here, and you might think to yourself, well, that's just screwed into the panel, but it's actually screwed into a bracket that's screwed into the door. So you're going to have to make sure that you take that off in order to get your door panel off. When you take your door panel off, it pulls up like this. You'll need to take this button off, of course, and it'll just pull up. So just give me a second here and we'll take a look at what's underneath. So I'm going to put my door handle on and I'm going to roll my window up. Now there's a brace down here, and on that brace there's usually a little rubber stop down there to keep your window from going all the way down. A lot of times it's missing. This one is, but you want your window all the way down so that you can take off this piece of rubber right here. When I'm going to be taking that out, it's usually a good idea to put some tape on here if your paint is in good shape. And then when I'm taking it out, you're going to want to get a spatula like this, and you're just going to want to gently pry it back and see where the clips are. You don't want to get too aggressive or you'll do damage to the door where the clips go in and you'll have to fix it. Now once I get this off, I'll show you what they look like a little bit better and you'll have a better idea of how to take these off. Now next thing I like to get is something like this right here, and I'll just slip this in right behind the clip and slide it in there, and then it'll generally make the clip come out nice and easy for you. So let me just get these guys and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's right like that. Now what's happening is when I slide this in, it's taking this clip and it's bringing it out and disengaging that from the door. If you just try to pull it out altogether, a lot of times that'll hook up on there and do damage to the door. So a couple of seconds, you'll be just fine. Next I'll be taking out the vent window here. You have a couple of bolts right down here. Just these two, you're not going to mess with any of these. And then right at the top you've got 3 screws. And these screws are kind of specific, and they have a funny little thing on them, like a odd washer, if you will. You're not going to be reusing these, but they are so odd that you might want to keep them if one of your buddy needs them. I'm going to get all these out and then I'll show you how to take the vent window out. There's a little bit of a trick to that, so stay tuned. Next I'll take this rubber out right here. With that out, I can take my vent window and pull it back like that. Get it back a little bit, and then you're going to want to turn it 90 degrees. And the reason you turn it 90 degrees is so that you can get this bracket out right here. It's got rivets on it and edges that get stuck. So come on up, 90, and out the rest of the way. All right, there's a little screw that you'll find in these. Sometimes they're missing over the years. If it's in there, we'll take it out. Now I'm going to roll the window all the way up so I can take it out. So once it's high enough, it'll clear this little bracket right here inside the door. And what I want you to notice right here is that there's a little bit of a slot here, a little bit of a hole, and that hole is for this wheel to line up with. So we line that up, And then we can just use a screwdriver to gently pry it through that hole. Takes a little bit of a trick, so just give me a second here. So once my wheel is popped out, then I can just go ahead and slide this forward and I'm out. So there's a channel that goes right here to down here. We're going to take the bottom bolt off first, and then we'll take the top part out. And when that's coming out, you want to get your hands on it so it doesn't fall inside the door. And take it on out. Now, our new kit comes with these really short little bolts right here, and that's because the glass is so wide that these original ones right here will hit. So we're going to take this one out right here, and we'll be taking out this one right here and replacing with our short ones. So this bracket right here, this will obviously need to come out in order for the bigger piece of glass to clear. So a die grinder like this is really nice, but if you don't have one, you could use just a small hacksaw. It'll take you a little bit of time, but this isn't real thick or anything like that. Just be careful with your surrounding paint, and if you've got a mirror or anything like that close by, make sure that's masked up because the burrs can burn into glass. Let me cut this out. So the next thing in our door modification is taking our door handle off. Now, this can be a little bit tricky because you got this funny little clip right here. I've got a specific video on this. It's such a little trick, but just in general, it has to be in a specific spot. You'll notice that it's got a little bit larger hole in that bottom down there. So you need to just get this in the right spot in order to take this off. Then you'll be able to get your handle off. Now, try not to get this knocked off of your latch. If you do, it'll just slip back on. And when it goes back together, it just basically pops in, but taking it off is going to take you a minute. All right, you see this right here? If that is sticking out that far, it is going to hit your glass. So we are going to take this off. This is your lock on the outside of your door. All you have to do is take this clip right here and pull it back a little bit, and then that'll pop right out. Right there, back a little bit. Now I marked this right here so that I could take off just the right amount, and it's about 3/8 of an inch that you'll be cutting off the end right there. All right, so for the time being, I'm basically done with my door. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to modify some of the pieces here. Take a look at this little clip piece right here. And you notice how it's got a notch down at the bottom there? Top doesn't. This notch is going to fit right into this slot. And it's going to be on the inside, if you will, the door handle, okay? Because here's your glass going up and down. So we're going to put this right on like this. And then this is going to show us exactly the amount that we need to cut off. So I'll make sure that it's flush with the edge right here. And then I'll simply mark this using a scribe, or I'll get a magic marker and go ahead and mark it. And then you can just cut it off with a Dremel tool, a small hacksaw, what have you. I'm going to go ahead, and then I want you to notice that it's cutting here at the top too. That top cut, you'll have to be a little more careful because you got this spring and everything right here. So let me cut this off, and then I'll show you what goes on with some of this other stuff. All right, so once I take this piece off, then I'm going to take and make a little bit of a modification to the push button here. See how far this comes out? Now I don't want to push it that far in, and I'm going to want to clean up these burrs here on the end. So I can just use a screwdriver or something like this right here and get some of those off of there so that my button is moving freely here. So what I'm going to do is push this button in about 3/4 of the way, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim off this piece right here. Okay, and now we've got clearance for our glass when we open up the door. All right, so I've got all my mods done. I got some grease on there. I got nice free movement. Now I'm just going to go ahead and install this so it's all done with. We're going to take this end right here and point it that way. And then when we go ahead and slip it into the clip, we should be able to just push it in there. You should hear it clip, pop, and then we'd be all done. So let's see what kind of luck we got. So next we're going to go ahead and modify this rear channel right here. And that's what this piece right here is for. Now what you're going to do is just take this and you just slide it right like that. So it's butted up against this and it's right in that channel right there. With that there, I'll just take a magic marker and I'm going to mark it right here, right at this bend here. And then we're going to be taking this end piece off and cutting it off. While I still have this on here, I'm going to mark where those two holes are right there. If your magic marker won't get in there, then just get a awl or scratch and mark them. And now we can see where we're going to cut it off and the two holes to drill out. We're going to be drilling these out at 3/16. And then when we put them back together, we've got two screws that are going to go ahead and hold this piece on. This is already threaded, so you don't need any nuts or anything. So let me get this set up and I'll be right back. All right, so my mod's all done on this one, and this one's already ready out of the box. So let's go ahead and install them. So this here, the one we just made, it's going to go right back like it did before. Top hole here. Now this hole here is still going to be here, but you can see we brought it back further for the larger piece of glass. So let me get this in, and then I'll show you how to put the front one in. Next I'll be installing this front channel, and I'm going to be doing it in this wide spot right here. If I get too close to the front, it's too narrow and I can't slide it up that well. You have to fit it in just right. And when this is sitting in here, this right here is going to line up with this lower hole down here. So we're just going to install this a bit like this. I'm going to hold this at the top with my finger and move it all the way forward. This brace right here is going to go inside the door. So I've got this set here and all the way forward. I'm going to use the same 1/4-20 that I took out of here and put it in there. So it just takes a little bit to line it up. And then I'll go ahead and I'll take care of the screwing up on the top here. So give me 2 seconds to get this in. This will line us up here to the top, and then we'll be able to get that in. So with the bottom bolted, this is going to line up right here. Now I want to make sure that it's not tucked in too far, tucked out too far. I want to make sure that this outside channel and this inside channel are lined up. Then I'll take a little bit of a drill punch here and I'll get it right in the center, because this is a relatively specific hole there, because again, we don't want it shifted to one side or the other. Now that I've got my hole all centered up, I'll take a drill bit, a 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'll drill that out. So a little something like this. Now when that big piece of glass is on the sash on the bottom, it's really difficult to get it on the wheels here. So in order to make it simple for you, what we're going to do is take this rear wheel off. We've got a new wheel for you. Then you'll be able to slide it onto this front wheel, and then you'll be able to slide this into the channel and bolt it up. So I know it sounds a little bit confusing off the top of my head, but stay tuned and I'll show you how easy it is. I'm just going to take this one off right now. Again, it is the rear, not the front wheel. And all I got to do is just grind that head down a little bit, and then that'll just pop that rivet right on out of there. Next, I'm ready to put in this rubber seal here. Now to make sure it goes in right, we want to look for a couple of things. First thing we want to find are these serrations right here. Those serrations make a nice bend, okay? So a hard bend like this corner is where those serrations go. Another thing we got to watch out for is you can see that this is notched out just a little bit on both sides. And that's because when we put this rubber on right here, it tucks into there, and we need a little notch for that. So I'm going to go ahead and start this in here. And I'm going to make sure that those notches are right where I want them. Then I'll go ahead and work my way up. Now these just kind of fit into the channel nice and neat. You don't take them and shove them all the way up or anything like that. You'll notice right here that it's going to be tucking in on this edge right here and this edge right here. So I just do a little bit of a pinch and push it in, and then it'll generally pop right in there. I'll just get it basically set up, and I'll come back and double check that it's nice and neat. Now you really have to watch your corners. If you're taking this and you're trying to pull it too tight, then you can end up with a gap right here. After time, this kind of shrinks up a little bit, so if it's too tight, you're going to run into problems. So make sure that when you're doing this, you're not just shoving it up, but you're really shoving it into that corner, and you're not pulling this. Okay, so we're pushing back and up at the same time, and we'll be doing that in both of our corners here. So I'll get this in basic, and then I'll come back and make sure everything's nice and neat. Now when you get to the front right here, it is a bit difficult to get to the front with your arms and everything. So I'll take this and I'll slide it in, and I'll work it in as far as possible. I'll come back, I'll double check everything on top, and then I'll work my bottoms. Because it is so hard to get in there, it's usually get like a little piece of wood or something that you can go ahead and just gently tuck this in when you're down into here. Might help on the back too, but don't use anything too sharp or jagged. We don't want to do any damage. This is just rubber. So just give me a little bit of time to get this set up, and then I'll show you what comes next, so stay tuned. So next I'll be taking off this sash right here so I can reuse it when I'm taking it off. I want to make sure I don't do any damage to it. Now sometimes these will just fall off, and sometimes it seems like they're cemented on. So you're never quite sure how long it'll take to get them off, but you want to be gentle because we don't want to do any damage to the sash. So different things I'll do is put a screwdriver in the back end and go ahead and pry it in. Sometimes I'll have to put acetone on here and let it soak in. Take a razor and cut it in. Sometimes you can just get a board like this, and then starting at one end, just go ahead and work it down. So this was not too bad here. There we go. Now, this came out really nice and it's really clean, but more than likely yours is going to be dirty. So make sure you get this all nice and clean, and probably paint this up if it needs to be. But if you have any leftover gunk in here, it can give you trouble when you're trying to put in a new piece of glass. So get that ready. All right, so next we're going to be getting our setting tape here, which I really don't know why they call it setting tape, because it's not sticky at all, really. But what I like to do to get this prepped up is I like to take it and bend it in half like this. Sometimes I'll even get it all bent up, like say the day before, and put some weight on it just so that it's like this right here. Because the more it's bent over like that, the easier it is for you. Now, to make sure we get our sash in the right spot, what we're going to do is measure from the back side of the glass. Here's your front, here's your back, and we're going to go from the back side 1.5 inches, and we're going to mark it right there. Then what we're going to do, that's where the sash is going to go. Now you got to make sure this is going on the right way. So usually what I like to do is just picture how it's going to be going in the truck. So this is how that'll be going, and then this is going to have to go towards the inside with the rollers. So make sure you don't get it set up like this. Now that I'm ready to go on, we're going to do something like this. So I get my setting tape, and about like that. We've got this guy here, and looking for my mark right here. And I'll just get this edge started, and usually you can just push that down a little bit. Oh, okay, see, I put it on wrong. So that's how easy it is to get turned around. Really, probably what I should have done is put an arrow or some sort of thing on here to keep me from getting off track. But, okay, so I'm going to start at my back here Got my 1.5 mark right there. And then generally just to get the corner started isn't too bad. You can just kind of pull down on it. And then I'll get a rubber hammer and we're just lightly tapping down. Now, we're going to go ahead and lightly tap down the rest of the way while we're watching our setting tape to make sure it doesn't flop off to the side. We don't want to hammer hard on this or we're going to mess up the sash, this channel that the rollers are riding in. So we're going to get a piece of wood and we're going to put it on top, and then we're just going to gently work this down. Watching our setting tape. And I'm not looking to put this down in 2 or 3 hammers. I'm going to take my time. It's usually best if you have a buddy help you, but it's not like you can't do this all by yourself. Okay. And you can generally tell when it's bottomed out because you'll get a different sound on the hammer there. We're looking good. Now what I like to do is the setting tape, it'll generally come off a little bit uneven, and so I'm going to cut off any trim. If I've got anything left up like this, when I roll the window up, that might hit my felts at the top and make it so the window doesn't roll up all the way. So I'll just trim these down and then I'll get ready to put this in the door. All right, now in your kit, you're actually going to get 2 different thicknesses of this setting tape, and the reason being is that there were different thicknesses of glass from the factory, and that meant there were different thicknesses for the sash too. So what you're going to want to do is, we've made ours out of the thicker glass, and you just get the setting tape that looks like it's going to work appropriate for yours. If one looks too fat, then you're just going to use the skinny one, and vice versa. It'll be pretty obvious because if you try to set it in there with the wrong tape, it's just not going to hold in at all. So it'll be obvious which one you're going to be using. So don't be surprised when you get an extra set and you don't know where it goes. So my glass is ready to go in, but I want to double check my door before I do. A lot of times the edges here, they're going to get damaged when you're taking things out. You want to notice this right here. You see this slot? That's where the top felt goes in, is that little slot. And a lot of times when you're taking them apart, they're going to get bent out and things. If they're bent out, it's not going to let the top whisker sit in right. So we're going to fix anything that we see like that. And then we're going to put a little bit of tape on here too, because, just to make sure that our glass is safe when it's going on in. My glass is ready to go in. Because it's larger, it is going to go in a little bit different than you would normally put your glass in. What I'm going to be doing is taking my roller and going all the way up. Now my front roller was bad on this, so I went ahead and replaced it. I put a square one on there. That's what the newer ones look like. If you have a round one on though, it makes it a little bit easier to put the glass on. So I might struggle with this just a little bit more than you would at home. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to get the channel, the track on this, then I can roll it down a little bit. So I'll get my glass like this, get it on the roller, bring it down some, and then I'll just turn it 90, and then I'll put my rear roller on. So let me see how easy this goes for me or not. And this is also easier if you have a buddy with you, but a lot of times I like to do this by myself on camera just so I can show you that it is doable at home. Okay, so it's started. Now I'm bringing it down. And when I'm bringing it down, I'm making sure that the front of the glass is going into my nice rubber channel there. And then when I'm bringing this at a 90, I'm also making sure that I'm in my channels. So I'm double checking and I'm all good. Now you can see right here that this is already lined up. And now I'll take another square wheel, if you will, put it right into the slot, slide it right on over, line it up through the hole, bolt it up. And these are whiz nuts. I love these things. This is kind of like a nut, a lock washer, and a washer all at one time. So you don't need to put a lock on this nut because it's already on there, if you will. So now all I got to do is just tighten that up and test it out. Okay. Looking good. Looking good, there you have it. So now I'll just clean everything up, put it all back on, and it's just gonna go back on in the opposite order. I'm gonna need to get my felts on though, so let me show you how to do that in just a second here. I'm ready to put my felts on top now, my whiskers. And you just want to double check that the slots that it goes into are in good shape and nothing's bent up. And you're going to make sure these clips right here are going to go right onto the slots. So first thing we're going to do is just line things up and get them basically set up there. And what we got to do is get that little clip started on the slot, each one of them, and then we'll pop them down. If you get the first one and pop it down, things can get bent up. So make sure our slots are lined up. Everybody's in. Okay, and then starting at one side, we're going to pull down and in kind of. And it'll generally do like a little bit of a pop kind of thing maybe. Okay, double check. Everybody's looking good. Now I've already done my right side, so it was easy to see which my left side was, but when you take them out of the kit, they look exactly the same. One way you can tell the difference, or a couple different ways, is just lining up the clips. It's not going to fit on the other door. The other thing is that you'll notice that this end right here, I think the camera might be able to pick it up, it slopes up longer and higher, and this one here slopes up less and shorter, and it's just to get the radius curves right. So I'm all set with this now. And now we'll work on our door panel, put the felt on it, and get it in the right spot. Okay, I did forget one little thing here for you. Now in the front, there's no clips or anything, and that's because the vent window is right there. So we still want to secure this, and if you remember when we put this piece in, there is a slot and a little hole right here, and that is specifically so I can get a little screw and screw it in there. So what I'm going to do is get my flashlight. I'll double check where that brace is, exactly where the slot is. I'll mark that. After it's marked, I'll make sure that my rubber is up on the door's edge and it's all nice and even. Then I'll go ahead and drill a small 1/8 inch hole here. I'm going to try to do it before this large curve right here because the door panel will cover this. It's a little bit of a slot where I can get this drill in. Now I'm just drilling through the weather seal, nothing else. Now that brace underneath there, you can just put your fingers right through this hole right here, get your fingers on the brace, and then you can help guide the screw into the hole and give a little support for the brace in order to screw this in. So now is time to put the felt on our inside panel here. Now I've taken this one off so I can show you the clips that hold it on, and this is real similar to what's holding on the other clip, weather strip, but these are a bit more tougher to take off here, and you got to be really careful with this because the plastic gets old and it gets really brittle. It breaks pretty easy. If you do, they do sell these panels new now, so that's nice. But at any rate, before you take this off, what I want to do is measure the end right here so I can duplicate that, and this will end up in the right spot. In this case, it turns out to be about 1.5 inches past. You might want to measure yours just to be on the safe side. But once I get these clips off nice and gentle like, what I like to do is actually glue this on first. Now the kit comes with rivets, and I will be using the rivets, but I like to glue it on first, let it dry up, and then drill my holes and put my rivets in. If I try to do everything at once, it's all slipping and sliding, the glue gets everywhere, it becomes a bit of a thing. So what I'll do is simply measure my 1.5 inches. It's going to be right there. Put that back down. I'll get some glue, and I'm going to put it on both pieces. So this just seems to work better. If you just put it on one side, then a lot of times it will not work. You got to make sure this surface is really nice and clean. You get some wax and grease, or even some brake cleaner on there, so that we make sure that it's going to stick. Make sure that the glue you're using is good for rubber and plastic and such. So that's that. When I'm setting it on, you've got this bit of a roll edge here, got a little bit of a hook on it. I'm going to make sure that hook is right on this top edge right here. So I'll put it on like that. I'm going to double check my 1.5 inches off the back. So right there. Okay, things looking pretty good. I'll put a board across the midsection, get some C-clamps, and I'm just going to gently clamp this down. Then I'll double check it at the top. I suppose you can just tape these on, miscellaneous things like that. Just make sure it's in the right spot before you walk away. And then after it's all dried up, then I can go ahead and get my rivets in there. So give me a little bit of time for this glue to dry, and I'll show you how to do rivets if you're not familiar with that. So my glue is all nice and dried. Now I can go ahead and put my rivets in. When I put the rivets in, I want to take this little edge right here and fold it back and do my rivet right into there. This way I don't have to worry about it possibly run it up on the glass or anything like that. All you're going to be doing is just drilling a hole. And then I forgot to mention this tool beforehand, but these are really inexpensive. I think like 15, maybe 20 bucks. And all you're going to do is just put it in right like that, and then you just squeeze the handle down. Make sure it's all the way through. And then it'll just pop like that, and you can see it's nice and neat. It's behind the fold. We don't have to worry about our glass. Now we can go ahead and install this. So there you have it. You can see it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't take any special tools. You can do it. 2-3 hours maybe max per side, and you're all set. Now before you order the kit, think of the peripheral things that you might want to get at the same time. You got door handles, you got window regulators. They also have an electric version, so you can upgrade to electric if you want. You got your inside door handles, panels, etc., etc. So just get everybody at one time, knock it all out at one time. My name is David Welch. I'm at Brothers Tech Center every single Tuesday, bolting stuff on, making people's trucks look cool. We can make your truck look cool too. All you got to do is subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram too. The trifecta is what you need.